Steven said, my name is Delmy Reyes. I'm the project manager for the I-45 reconstruction project in Walker County. So this project starts at the Montgomery-Walker County line, and it goes 6.7 miles north. It was awarded at $119 million, and it's scheduled to take about 4.5 years to complete. This project consists of a complete reconstruction of the pavement structure. It's going to widen from 4 to 6 lanes, and it has 3 bridge replacements. I-45 is the main route between Houston and Dallas. So within our 6 miles, we impact a variety of entities, stakeholders, and basically anybody traveling between Houston and Dallas. So when we do a traffic change, a lane closure, or even worse, a complete closure, we have to let everybody between those 2 cities know what's going on between our construction zone. New Waverly is a small town that hasn't seen anything like this in many years. So they get scared when we do a conversion from a 2-way frontage road to 1-way, when we tear down their bridge or even close an intersection. So one of the challenges is to always keep them informed and involved of what's going on in the process of the project. With a project this big, it's almost necessary to have a mission and set yourself goals, to not lose sight of the big picture and get lost in the small details and the daily routines. So our mission is to have a safe and efficient operation while serving the public, and our goal is to have a quality project that's on time and on budget. And we're always looking for ways to make things easier for ourselves. So one of those ways is using innovative technology, and I'll let Fernando go from there.
Thank you, Delmy. Can everybody hear me okay with this? Probably move around, so. Okay, well, as I said, I'm Fernando Pizarro, I'm area manager for Weber. Howdy, everybody. So it's really a pleasure for us to be here today to try to give a perspective on how innovation and innovative technology can help construction. We're truly honored for that. But at the same time, we wanted to think on maybe why are we here, or why we think that we can provide some value and to speak in front of you today. And we believe that is because we do think outside of the box. We try to challenge ourselves, and I think that the previous panel was the perfect opening for that, because they talked about thinking on this on the previous phases. I mean, having contractors reviewing 60% plans. That really touches to the fiber of how can we be better, not only during construction, during planning, but also at the bidding stage. So then we'll jump on some specific examples on the 45 project, but let's start on why do we need innovation? Why is innovation important in construction? Well, it's because everything that we do has an impact on the public, so it's our responsibility to look on different ways of doing things better. And innovation is really ingrained on the main topics that we need to touch on here. So in this case, we're going to review where the industry is now in reference to the other, how can innovation help, what main trends are out there, and also examples of this innovative technology on the 45 project. So continuing on the numbers that were presented before, construction right now represents 13% of the global GDP. But at the same time, the productivity has only increased 1% on the last 20 years. To give a reference, manufacturing productivity has increased 3.6. So in this case, this gap in productivity equals $1.6 trillion, which is half of the yearly infrastructure needs. And of course, all these numbers always have to take them with a grain of salt, but I think that they represent the magnitude of the task that we have to undertake. And I'll take part of the blame for this as a member of the industry, as I think that we all have to do, because what we do, we approach projects sometimes with no repetition, and I think that Mr. Hoffman touched on this, and it's really important. Every project has particular constraints, but the bulk of what we do is not that different. So our ability to repeat and learn from one project to the other is critical in order to get better. Innovation also helps in terms of safety and also in terms of quality. And something that was said in the past, which I agree to, is that if we build our project safely and with quality, most of the cases production just follows. On the main trends that are out there, drone and GPS technologies, wearable devices, remote control technologies, build information management system, prefabricated and standardized solutions, as well as targeted trainings for the people. And I think that that's a common mistake that we always do, that thinks that innovation is just technology or gadgets or equipment. But the equipment doesn't drive itself, the concrete doesn't place itself. So we need to target people as the root focus, as the main focus on everything that we do. Not only for the efficiency of production, but also for the safety. Equipment doesn't hurt itself, materials don't hurt itself, the people do. And that's what we need to put our efforts to. So taking that introduction down to particular examples in our AH45 project, which we started in May, and we have to emphasize on the collaboration that was brought up in the previous panel. I think that working with the Huntsville area office, with Andrew and Delmy and the rest of the Bryan district has truly been an example on how we believe that we should approach these projects in order to add an extra value for a corridor as important as this one. Examples that we have used on this project is drone technology, which we have used to develop the ortho mapping that we use for planning and tracking, stockpile measurements, earthwork quantities, earth camp for remote monitoring of the operations, GPS control equipment, which is not that uncommon now, which is uncommon is the challenges that we had to overcome out there, smart traffic monitoring system and remotely controlled message boards, and hydraulic clamps for moving barrier and drainage elements. So starting with the drone surveying, we started performing a flight the day that we got access to the job site. And with that flight, we developed an ortho model, ortho map, which you can see in the top left corner of this picture. That's a 3D model that is composed by thousands of pictures. And by doing so, you can actually take measurements, and you can overlay DGN and KMC files that is extremely useful for planning and extremely useful for tracking. And as you can see here in the bottom, that's a stockpile measurement. We use drone flights on a monthly basis to quantify the amount of material that we have in the stockpiles, the kind of concrete plant, concrete aggregates, sand, wrap, and other materials. And I'm sure that the contractors in the room will agree that that's where most of the losses and money implications are when you have a project that is very highly related to material production. It's very easy to use. Anybody can do it. You just have to select the contours, like is shown in the center picture, and the volumes come out there. We did have to overcome one challenge on this, and it's the computing needs of this process. Trying to do this with one computer, it takes days. But there are solutions out there, and we're working with one that is called Drone Deploy, and you just send them the data, and they turn it back to you within 24 hours. It's done online, it doesn't take nothing, and it's pretty cheap. So there are solutions out there to overcome that. And the example in the bottom right picture is just a cloud of points that you can use to quantify earthworks. We have observed, however, that the accuracy on tracking cuts and fills is less than tracking stockpiles, but we believe that the future it's also there because the accuracy is very close to traditional survey. In our experience, within 3% of the traditional survey in a stockpile measurement. So EarthCam allows us to perform remote monitoring of the operation from different angles, but also to record time lapses. And I'm going to show you a couple of them. And the reason why I'm showing this is because there is something really important with the time lapses. They're very visual, and obviously it's really nice to see them. But there is a really important value for contractors behind this, and it's the ability to take a look at the operations after you've completed them. We need to look at those operations after the fact in order to truly achieve continual improvement. We need to look at those operations on what went well, what didn't go so well, and try to learn from them. This is an example of a cataract restore operation that was performed a few weekends ago. And we did perform one side of the roadway one weekend and another one the week after. So for us to have the ability to analyze how we did on the whole operation it was critical in order to do it properly on the subsequent closure. We call this analysis a post-mortem analysis, and I'll give it to you. That probably is not the best name that we could have chosen, but I think that it really addresses the need on looking again. Look again. Let's find out what can we repeat that worked in the previous time. We don't have to reinvent the wheel at every single step of the game. So traffic management, everything we do, everything that we do in most of our projects, is just for the traffic. I mean, and once again, those figures are on a study by TTI, actually, and I think that the numbers are shocking. And I don't know, but $750 for each one of the US commuters. I certainly don't want to give away $750 every year. And as you can see in this graph, 45% of the congestion is recurrent, 55% is not. So there has to be systems out there to address that non-recurrent congestion. And this project incorporated in the contract drawings the smart traffic management system, which is consisted on a set of devices that read the traffic conditions and display a set of predetermined messages that display information to the public depending on the speed of the cars that travel through. These messages were predetermined on the project drawings, and what we can tell you is that this has been a truly game changer on our ability to manage the traffic through 45. This is coupled with remotely controlled message boards, and what you can see is the actual screen that we do see on our phone or on our tablet or on our computer, and this allows us to actually change the message that is displayed on the boards out there from your phone. This is basically what you see, and this is the reflection out there. I mean, it's going to be pretty funny too. You can see our friend Ricardo here showing how you can do whatever you want with these message boards. And from the perspective of the contractor, this is not only really efficient, it's very safe. In our experience, that has been a problem, putting the people out there to change those message boards on the shoulders. So the ability to do that, and I'd like James to add a little bit to this from the perspective of the field.
Yeah, absolutely. In the past, we take 10 to 15 minutes per message board, and like Fernando said, have the guys right there on the side of the road changing it, where this allows us to drive around in a matter of 20 minutes on the phone or on the computer in the truck, change it, and actually see the messages change. So it's been very helpful, saves a lot of time and a lot of risk.
So on GPS control equipment and aided heavy equipment, blades and dozers that are supported by GPS are not that uncommon now. What is uncommon is to have to set up your own network within the project. The RTK network, it's not accessible in most of these job sites, and therefore we needed to establish a set of bases that not only allows us to connect to there and get the data, but also use two different suppliers, in this case Topcon and Trimble. This allows us to have a lower dependency on the operator skills, which in our vision is going to be an increasing problem because of the increased demand. We're going to need more and more skilled labor. So having this technology to provide and to give us the ability on achieving excellent results without the deep dependence on the operator skills, it certainly needs to be achieved to maintain the results that we want. On this case, excavator, we use GPS control excavator too, which we have seen gives some value on flat excavations, but what we see that is a truly game changer is on the slopes. And once again, I think that James, we saw this operation, so you can provide really good feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not an equipment operator by any means, and even I could get in this machine and cut a ditch to grade very quickly. So it proved to be quite valuable. Also, as you mentioned, setting up our own network, we've set up extenders and communicators that talk between Trimble and Topcon to assist with the reach on this project. 4.5 mile stretch, kind of in the middle of nowhere, has bad cell phone service, so we've seen that impact.
And one device that is not that common is this hybrid equipment that we use, which is a belt placer and a trimmer. This machine does not have string lines. It's GPS driven. And what we achieve with this machine is that you actually can achieve remarkable yields and a really, really, really good ride. Right now, this machine is working in the Corsicana project up in 45, which the Navarro County would recognize, and we do plan to incorporate and use this on our project. This responds back again to the reduced skill set in the finishing operations. So we could also say that what else is out there? And I would like to take a minute to show some other initiatives that are being used somewhere else in the world. But before that, the reason why I'm showing this graph in the right-hand side of the screen is because only a true comprehensive program that is ingrained both on the contractor and tech staff and the rest of the organizations that participate on a project will work. Just pushing on one side is not going to work. It's about training, it's about technology, it's about support, it's about collaboration and true partnering. I mean, I think the previous panel did a great job on illustrating the importance for this. And we are not going to build Texas without focusing on how can we do it better. If we have to build more and build better, it's not going to be done the same way that we have traditionally done. An example of this gentleman right here, that was an idea that was internally developed by our parent company, Ferrovial. And what you can see there is a gentleman that in his Google glasses, he sees the data of the plane that is coming to the airport. And that's during the management of Heathrow Airport in London. This is another example that actually won the internal competition for innovation that we did last year. And it's a wearable device that it's carried on the vest of the worker. When it detects that the machine is too close to that individual, it sends a signal to the machine and it shuts it down. Okay? And it's really a simple concept. It's just an idea. It was sitting in somebody's brain waiting for somebody to develop. Tapping into that knowledge is innovation. It's not just the gadgets. It's tapping into the people's knowledge too. So to the question, are you going to use those glasses out there in the 45 project in Walker? Probably the response is no. But we are looking at some additional innovative technologies that we plan to use. One of them being intelligent compaction, which is not that uncommon on asphalt layers, but we plan to push it to the subgrade layers and flexible bases. And that is something that is not that common, at least on our experience in our projects. Hydraulic clamps to move barrier, not only for efficiency, but also for safety. Traditionally, installing precast barrier has been a root cause of a lot of injuries. So new devices on how to do that certainly are an option that we are going to explore, and the same thing for moving precast pipes around. And I think that, James, we did use that hydraulic clamp not so many weekends ago, and you probably can elaborate a little bit more.
Yes, the prototype that we demoed, I mean, it definitely took away about 75% of the workforce needed to pick up the barrier and move it. And like Fernando said, that's one of the biggest safety risks that we run on a constant basis with that big of a weight around so many people's feet and hands. So taking that risk away has been, I mean, it's eye-opening what that can do for us in the future.
Okay, so hopefully this has been interesting for some of you, and now we will raise good questions. But before we open the turn for questions, there is something that once again we need to hit. And we live in a business that almost every week we hear we've been doing this like that for 20 years. And I think that this is something that needs to be broken, because only if we are able to break those barriers and implement those technologies in our daily projects, from the small overlay project to the massive design and build CDA reconstructions. It's not only really in the landmark projects where we need to incorporate this. Technology will be sitting out there for us to take. We just have to break our barriers and do it. So with that, I'm going to open the time for questions with the help of Ricardo again, with his funny message board. So thank you very much again for having us. So let's see if there is any question. Sir, please.
Yeah, this was shown yesterday in the design session, but are you also looking at the use of 3D 5D modeling
Thank you. The question is, from the design it was discussed yesterday, and the question is if we are going to incorporate 4D, 5D models. So as I shown in the previous slide, one important technology that is out there and is going to be increasingly used, it's BIM, B-I-M, the Building Information Modeling. In this case, for example, within Weber, we have one department that is the BIM department. And it's not much used yet into the heavy civil side. It's highly used into the commercial and into the waterworks side of the business. We do plan to incorporate those more and more into the heavy civil side, because right now 3D doesn't exist anymore. There are variables other than space, like time, like quality, like when do you construct things, where do you have a non-conformance report, when a material was incorporated. All that information needs to be integrated. The ability to have designers to work within that framework is key, because once again, design on one side, construction on the other doesn't work. We need to be able to take that information from this side and incorporate the data from construction as additional dimensions for that. As an example, in the UK, BIM is going to be mandatory for every project, public or private, in 2 years from now. Please.
If you can go back to the slide where you had the information you said displayed, it wasn't right there. Yeah.
The smart traffic management system.
Is that something that you guys came up with, or that's the engineer that came up with that, or can you explain about this?
Yes. So the question is to elaborate a little bit and explain on the smart traffic management system if we came up with it or the engineer or the project did. So this was part of the contract drawings. One of the bid items was particularly this, a smart traffic management system. It wasn't defined as far as many as the device or the system that you will have to use. There are a few options out there in the market, not that many. What it was predetermined on the project drawings, and this is one of the contract drawings, is where to put the message boards, where to put the devices, and what the response needs to be depending on the speed of the traffic. And we can see here, it shows different sections where the devices need to be installed, and also what the information is displayed to the public depending on the speed of the vehicles traveling through. And we can see here some of the examples that depending on the speed on each one of the sections, the information can be slow traffic ahead, or traffic stopped ahead, or construction ahead. So the ability to actually inform the people, which builds upon what Delmy said before, has shown to be a true game changer and a really useful tool on the way that we manage the traffic, particularly during the full closures and when we do major weekend closures.
Did you have to make any changes, or you were fine with everything?
To the smart traffic management system, we haven't done any change. The way that it's working so far in our impression has been good. There is something that needs to supplement the system, which is the additional message boards, which also gives information that is not linked to the sensors. And those are the message boards that I showed too, which is the ones that you can control. We don't change what the smart traffic management system says. That's automatically based on the readings of the speed. We do change quite often the rest of the message boards in case there is an accident, or in case like use exit 20 if something happens. We have that ability, and that has proven to be very useful too. So it's a combination of both systems, the automatic one, which comes from the contract drawings, and those flexible message boards that you can adjust at any given time. Sure.
Do you see any major construction equipment changes, not adding electronics onto existing kinds of machines, but different kinds of machines? In the 1970s, we saw an explosion of different kinds of new machines that came out, cold milling machines, vibratory compactors, drum mixers, a variety of things that were generated during that decade, but I haven't seen much recently. Anything coming?
So the question is if we foresee the introduction of new machines, not upgrades or incorporating technology to existing machines, but really new machines per se. Well, I could give you my personal opinion on this, and then I'll pass it on to James and to Delmy and see if they can come up with something or they have a different idea. We are looking at a scarcity of materials. And the ability to recycle materials, in my opinion, is going to be key for the future. So right now, there is truly not a machine or a set of machines that can actually recycle the materials in place when we're talking about concrete pavement or when we're talking about most of the existing subgrades and bases. We do have on the industry some trains that recycle the asphalt in place to leave those materials there. That's what I think, and that's where we have seen in part of our analysis that the future of some of those machines will come up. How will they look? When will they be out? We don't know. But what we do see is that the need to recycle materials in place on the same projects efficiently is what probably going to drive the development of the future machines. If somebody has an idea on how to develop that, I'll be willing to partner with him or her.
We'll take one more question, and then I'd encourage y'all to come and catch the presenters during the break time if y'all'd like to chat some more.
Okay, please.
I don't know if I missed it, but on the smart traffic, is there live camera feeds that are part of that? Like on the message boards or somewhere we can see that?
There are not. On the smart traffic management system, you can add them. That's a feature that you can add to those message boards. The remote cameras on the EarthCam is a separate feature that we have elected to use on this project because it is separate from this system. This system, some of them is message boards. You can actually get them that it has a pole behind them with a camera that you can actually use to visually monitor the traffic on top of just reading the speed of the vehicles. But in this particular case, they don't.